ship, but in the long run, you'll save yourself that energy or you'll save yourself that money, and definitely you'll save your peace of mind. Perhaps
What
it's
you
worth consideration.
what you were just talking about, I think the one of the most valuable phrase that I learned while I was at School of Metaphysics from my teacher, Nancy Hayek, is that it depends.
Right.
It depends. Those are two big words that for me. So I can think or say or imagine that I'll do so and so in a particular situation, but until I get into that situation, I don't know.
Right. Right.
So why be bothered with what you don't know? But my next talk is going to be um, the start of learning something new is to say I don't know. That's got to be there.
I
A
like
little
that.
pause. A pause helps things settle in.
Yes. I'm like, hmm.
And I like to make people say, huh? Because when somebody walks away and I made them say, huh, they've got a question. And it'll nag them enough to where they'll find an answer. So I may have provided a service.
Or the answer might be whatever. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the answer, but it stays with them, right? You're right.
Yes,
It'll stay with
that's
them. Even
right.
if the answer right now is whatever, it might not always be.
Something that
That,
I find too with this subject, and we just got, we're now on social media. We were not before, but so we've been talking about this very poignant subject of knowing if we are like the specifics of what y'all are saying is, are we are definitely on YouTube right now, not on Facebook. Uh, are we going to get sick? Like we've been, looking at this from that standpoint. If I don't say this, if I do say it, it's going to help people. We've been kind of batting on that side of the plate, right? But then there is another side of the plate where you find out that what you were wanting to say really isn't that important, and it actually isn't helpful. But
You
but you
said
still
it.
needed to say it. You needed to get it out.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I grew up on the farm. You don't want stuff sticking to you.
No, you just need to let it out, no matter what, because you don't really. How do you know? You don't really know
No,
until you do it, right?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've come to understand that pretty good, I think. So now my friend Arno is really good about the activity part, but I've been a little slow getting to that. But I'm understanding now that until I plan an activity for my to make my goals come about, it's like an airplane with no place to land, and the
Right.
activity gives it a place to be. So I'm understanding that now. So I'm a little bit better with activity. I need to be a lot better, but I'm a little better.
Yeah. So it's like it's the opposite of the ego we were talking about. It's the spiritual juice that we want. You want to feel that rush of completion or that rush of wholeness, and
Oh
and
yeah,
what you share. So then you got people who stand up comedians or actors or
George Carlin.
right, politicians, whatever. Some people are able to get up and they talk about stuff, and it's important, but they had to go through the same anxiety that we're talking about earlier,
Yeah.
get to the point where they understood themselves better and they could actually be able to pause and not feel weird about not saying anything, thinking. I got a friend who he thinks way too much, but you know, he
I
makes
feel
a
called out.
Well, he thinks this is interesting. He thinks in a holding back kind of way. Some people thinking they talk too much, right? So he thinks and he doesn't talk enough. You know,
Okay.
he'll just sit there and look at you, and well, act like what you're saying, Winston. He won't act. It won't be the action. It'll just be
Yeah.
the thinking, the do.
Maybe a little passive aggressive, so to speak. You know.
Something like that. Yeah, he can get angry sometimes too. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned anxiety. That keeps coming to mind. And a little bit more advertisement on We Available Media, you'll find I talk about anxiety and it's easily fixed.
Mhm.
Just, you got to hear my talk.
Yeah, I know it's the attention, with our attention.
It's easily fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
What do you
have
mean
to
our
figure it
attention?
out.
So
Oh,
what
well,
do
that's in the school of metaphysics. What I learned too as a student and teacher, anxiety, the cause is scattered attention, when your attention is scattered. And so
Yes.
that is true in the sense if I'm in my mind or in my thoughts, I'm like, what are they going to think if I say this, if I say that, that
well,
back.
yeah. I always feel like somebody's watching
Yeah.
me, right? You're all
Yeah.
everybody you're looking at.
Well, I
What
did
are
that.
they thinking?
I did that talk too. I call it the yeah butt bat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah, when somebody swings the yeah butt bat, the ears close.
I
Right.
like that.
No charge for that.
Or the I know. That's the one. The I know disease is like a
Oh
big
yeah, that one that's
Oh
serious
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah. I hear a lot of that in response to sometimes I'm talking in the steam room with a sauna, wherever. Um, Especially people who have been in religion all their life and they've been taught that they have got it all, but they haven't really begun. They when they say I know, that just means they remember what they've been told.
exactly. Yeah. So another commenter was talking about this, and she said, "I think a lot of people lack confidence because of the downloading of negative patterns as a child, which is
Mhm.
absolutely not their fault, by the way.
That's
Those
not
ne-
true.
those negative patterns get stuck so deeply enmeshed into the fabric of who they are, they don't even notice it, even though it's causing havoc in their life. So there is the unconscious mind, which is definitely true. The unconscious state of consciousness where you don't know, what's going on in your life. What we were just talking about. You have to become aware. It's like what you were saying, Winston. It is true for you. You already said it was true. When you were a kid and you were playing football, you didn't, you didn't have anybody to help you navigate those certain parts of
Yeah,
your. So that
yeah.
download,
I needed a lot of help.
yeah. So you didn't know. so
Even even now, I'll hear myself saying, "Well, I may need more help than what's available."
or than what we know. That's really what I think is happening. Is like we don't know even how to ask. Like you said too, don't know who to ask, don't know how to ask. Maybe there's a school counselor, or maybe there's a nurse, or your
Well,
best friend who's charismatic. Maybe you could ask them, but you
Yeah.
just don't know if you're supposed, what to do.
well, this is another one of my talks. I've learned that there ain't but one place to ask, and that's within, because your own soul constructs the experience that'll show you how it works. It's just real simple.
Well, what we practice, I'm going to ask you again out loud here, said a quiet part out loud to come and experience the peace covenant with us, because coming to these talks and not coming to experience the peace covenant with us is a little bit off kilter. It puts you off in a certain kind of way. The many times you've come here, you've been able to experience this in a great way, but this came from the reading of the peace covenant and the influence of reading the peace covenant every day. And we talk a lot about absolutism, and how that can be very dangerous. Um, and we went through that actually. It's like we got our own class. We've had our 5-year class, so we've
That
already
was
come to the we've already come to the lesson about absolutism.
That was the song War.
Yeah, and so there's a way that whenever we focus in on I know, that's an insidious egoic, thing waiting to happen, and that's where you can get to the point where you talk too much. So there's like my friend not talking enough, and then there's the talking too much. There's the over I know-ness. It's a big disease.
Yeah, and if you know, then you probably are also not listening
Yeah, and so
at the same time. Yeah, because
there's
you
lots of
already know,
people.
right? Somebody starts talking, you're like, oh, I know. Yeah, I know that. I already know that. It's not
There's
important.
I always ask myself why are there so many people and so many entities on the planet at the same time if we're not supposed to interact with each other and ask each other questions and learn from each other? It wouldn't make any sense. Like even the trees, the rabbits or the blades of grass,
Yeah.
everything has a benefit and it can teach you something if you ask and if you listen.
Well, I told somebody just the other day that if you want me to be perfect before I say anything, with that kind of thinking, who would be able to ask anybody about anything?
You wouldn't be able to formulate you wouldn't be able to formulate a question at all or a connection. You wouldn't be able to be aware of connection.
If you can only talk to somebody that's achieved perfection,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have to wait a couple of days.
You might be on the wrong planet for that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Right.
That's still a little far out for me.
So having the moment of awareness of knowing that you chose your life or you choose your people, some of the people in your life, you choose them or you choose the circumstances.
Yeah.
That moment of awareness can change a lot for you. But when you
A
don't
whole
know,
lot.
it
Yeah.
doesn't do you any good.
Well, that's the perspective that I keep coming back to to keep myself adjusted, is because I know I chose this.
Right.
Right. That's
Yeah,
very
and I think that's what you meant, earlier when you said when Terrence Lamont was reading that comment and you were like, that's not true. I think you were speaking from that perspective of, yeah, your soul knows it set up the situation,
Right.
What
but
what I,
the
what
person
I
having
was
the experience, like in the experience, they don't know. And that's where
well
Terrence
what
Lamont was responding from.
at 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 that age, yeah, you don't know, but you do in subconscious mind, but
Yeah.
you're not
That's why I like to
you're,
say
you're
two
you're
truths are
not awake
possible.
enough to understand that yet.
Right. Right. So
Yeah.
But
there's more than one
so
perspective.
there's a juxtaposition there.
There's
Yeah.
more than one perspective, and you have to be able to open your mind to see both perspectives, and then absolutism can fall away.
Yeah.
There's 144,000 different perspectives.
At least.
Well, I'd say
Or at most, who knows?
I'd say there's billions of perspectives right now
Yeah.
on the planet. There's more than 144,000.
Well, it's more than I know how to count.
Right.
Definitely.
Terrence Lamont, you said something earlier that I didn't want to let get away as time winds down. And that was about, sometimes actually being comfortable in the victim position or finding or getting something from that, getting benefit from being the victim
Hmm.
in these situations and how can that impact these relationships and workships and all of the ships that we've been talking about,
I like that. Okay. Yeah.
all the ships,
All
right?
the ships.
Say, yeah, if I'm in a bad working situation and I mean, every time I come to you guys, I got something to talk about, right? I can talk about how bad it is and how bad so and so talks to me and how
Right.
much work I do, and that'll make me feel good, right? I can puff.
Yeah.
I do so much work, man. I'm so good to them, and or even in a relationship situation, say a friendship, I can be like, oh, I do so much for old Terrence Lamont, and yeah, he just doesn't really appreciate our friendship,
Appreciate
right?
yeah, yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, right, right.
Uh,
Well,
uh,
that's why you make baseball bats.
oh wow.
So you can play sports? What?
No, it's a story about the old guy hitting his mule with a baseball bat, I think, and Guy asked him, "Well, why did you do that?" I said, "No, I'm just getting his attention." There's more to that story, and I missed it.
Yeah, there has to be.
I'm sure there is. So,
There has to be, but I'm curious what anybody else has to say about what somebody can get out of being the person that doesn't say anything.
well, I think that, yeah, so that's a good point. It's the it's man, it's a lot. There is this experience of separation that we get confused by. And it's an experience. It is an experience, but it's not true. It's no more true than, I don't know, choking on your own aspirations, right? It's obvious that you can't do that. That's impossible, right? But if you say it, then, somebody, we can understand kind of what what's being tried to, bring forward by saying something like that. That's a metaphor, right? But then if you say, uh, we are separate, or something else that comes away from separation, I'm better than you, or I know more than you, or I'm important, or something like any of those things. All the things, man. I'm telling you, there's 100,000. Maybe there's 144,000 separations.
Number six, number kind of sticks.
Yeah, because there's all these different ways that we see and we say, "Oh, I'm different," or "They're different," or something like that. There's so many different ways you can do that, right?
I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Bullwinkle and the Squirrel. They always make mention of the college they attended called "What's the Matter, You?"
Okay, so yeah, I think that's what I was wanting to say. There was something. What did you say, TJ? You said what was your question?
Yeah, what the person that stays
The
silent or is the victim,
Yeah.
what are they getting from
So,
that?
so if you're not this is the thing. If you're not part of something, see, you fade off when you're a part of the team. So you don't get to stand out anymore. So when you're a part of the team, when you're one of many. I've had this experience twice. We were talking about this earlier, and it caused me to. I didn't say this earlier, so now I'm saying it now. Reading the Peace Covenant, I was just talking about. So we read the Peace Covenant every day, on Zoom, and sometimes with people around, in groups of people. And so we were identifying today how the Peace Covenant has worked. A lot of the the voice of the Peace Covenant is a voice of a group. The way that it's, there's I's and we's and all that, right? And so whenever there's no I, there's not one I in this whole document. And so whenever I was reading twice, I've had this experience, possibly more, but definitely, well, no, I've had it more, but recently I can remember reading the Peace Covenant with a small group of people, everybody reciting it together at the same time, and I couldn't find my voice. I couldn't hear myself. I was moving my mouth, my vocal cords were working just fine, but I couldn't actually identify my own voice.
Hmm.
And it was right. It was like that. The first when I noticed it, I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And I just kept going, and I was like looking for it. I was like, it wasn't there because we were all so in sync and unified that we were one voice.
Okay. Makes sense.
And it made me cry. It was a really beautiful experience.
Yeah.
To know that humans, we can connect like that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only can we connect like that, it's really not even a connection. It's really, I was aware of the connection. The connection is always there, but sometimes we're not aware of it.
Right.
And so at that moment, I was aware. And that just meant a lot to me. So when we struggle and we try and we waste our energy to be important, never works.
I've noticed I see a lot of kids at YMCA, and while the parents are busy with something else, the kid and I will connect.
Yeah, I love moments like
Just little ones, and the parents just always wanting to explain what the kid's doing. I said, no, the kid's communicating with me by
that.
himself.
Right. It's like, we got this. Yeah.
But they don't know that.
Yeah.
But the kid knows. The kid knows.
Yeah.
Parents are funny, aren't they? They always, yeah, they want to help, but sometimes they go overboard.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of they teach kids how to swim at the Y, and I've seen it. Been watching it for 16 years. If the parents sit and watch while they're teaching, the chances of a kid throwing a tantrum are increased a lot. Whereas if the parent leaves the kid with the teacher and goes off and does something else,
Yeah.
then the kid does a whole lot better.
It
Right.
seems like
Yeah.
that, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, on that note, it is around the top of our hour or the bottom of our hour.
Yeah. So this is recorded on YouTube. So we haven't been,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah. So we haven't been on Facebook for an hour.
Ah, okay.
But that's okay. We can still keep. I mean, we can stop. I just want you to know that before you.
Yeah, I
Maybe
had a
that's why I
feeling.
had trouble. That may have been why. I
Yeah, we had a little
getting
trouble with our connection.
Trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
It
see it up
started and
there.
stopped. It looks like.
Yeah.
But
So
we are still recorded here, so you guys, whoever is watching this, because we can make this available. So go ahead. I just wanted to make sure you knew that for yourself.
yes, thank you. Yeah. Well, we do this every month. Peace is spelled through communication, the fourth Friday of the month, 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern. And we have a different topic. And also each day on Zoom, a group of us reads the Universal Peace Covenant, which was written by students and teachers in the School of Metaphysics in the late 90s. And you go to peacedome.org to register, and you will receive a Zoom link. We do that every day. And then afterwards, some of us will stay after and discuss topics just like we did here. And yeah, a virtual class in one way. So even though this isn't technically a class, but in one way it is a discussion. And
Yeah.
so yeah, please join us. Again, it's peacedome.org and it's 6:30 Central Time, AM, 7:30 Eastern. Or
All right.
actually, I said that wrong. Excuse me. 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern.
Yeah,
Peace Covenant in the morning. This is 6:30 Central Time.
Well, this is good because there's a lot of people that don't like Facebook that they use YouTube a lot. So
yeah, so we're going to post this. I mean, hopefully there's many people who watch this all the way through and they got all the way to here. So we're going to post this on Facebook and many other places.
Yeah, you can watch the beginning.
Yeah, go back to the beginning.
Right.
But we'll be back next month. We do this once a month. So, yeah, thanks for joining us.